topics that really matter to me. That includes anything related to spirituality. And for those of you who may not know me, I do career alignment coaching using a spiritual approach that integrates God's divine attributes using Asma Allah al-Husna in Arabic. And these are the main pillars for finding your path and passion from a career perspective. However, today's topic is not really about career. It is about a completely different path, which is chiropractic, and the focus would be the spiritual power of chiropractic. And joining me today for this conversation is Dr. Hamad Shirazi. He has a master's in exercise physiology and is also a doctor of chiropractic intern who's set to graduate in June. So if you can bear with me for a few minutes, I'll bring him here live with us. Hello. How are you?
I am doing very well. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. And that was a great introduction. You're a natural.
Well, thank you so much. Ramadan Kareem, it's such a perfect timing to have this spiritual conversation during the months of Ramadan. That's how I was like, this is perfect. We're all fasting. It's just a great boost for our spirituality to be having these conversations that reflect in our everyday life. So I want to talk more about how we met. I ran into Hamad while I was actually looking for a holistic approach. And when I first met him or, started the conversation, I found out that he was also a chiropractic as well, which to me was like holistic health, because I was looking at it from a holistic perspective. I just didn't see the integrations of holistic and chiropractic together, because to me they're just different things. Chiropractic is more just for pain, back pain. It's just my association, since I wasn't informed enough about it, I would say. And then, holistic health to me was just, maybe medicine, just a natural approach to health. So then I found out also that you do have a philosophical approach where you include spirituality. So that was like the perfect combination, at least for me. So if you can, give me more, or, talk here, or give us more insights on how are they all connected? How do you really connect them all and give your clients, just full healing from this approach?
Well, to begin, thanks for having me. And I'm glad that we're connected. And I'm grateful that, you reached out and you asked those questions. Before I jump into your specific question, in my search of finding, the optimal career path that aligns with my values and even spiritual values, I think chiropractic has one of the most holistic philosophies. It's based on the premise of the power that made the body is what heals the body. And that's one of the most foundational elements of the chiropractic philosophy. And that's how, for me, it ties into everything in my experiences, my education, and just the path of serving people. I love the limitless approach to where we're not confined to boxes. We do not treat symptoms necessarily. We care for people, and we help their systems regulate themselves better so that they can express optimal health.
Wow, these are really powerful things. When you said the power that makes the body, heals the body.
Yeah.
So how does faith play into here? Like, even people who, because sometimes you make prayers,
Yeah.
God, want to heal, but sometimes the healing journey is not easy, and sometimes people could lose hope, even though they believe, okay, there's a higher power, God can help me heal, but they may not be on the path to healing. So how would you say faith or spirituality in chiropractic would be, how would they apply it?
I'll touch on both. I really appreciate the fact that it's inclusive in that premise because it speaks to more the philosophical and intellectual parts of ourselves. You can deduce that as God, you know, in the monotheistic realm. Like for me, I fit more into the Islamic belief system, but in the monotheistic lens, when you're speaking of the power, that's that divine creator, God energy. And that's how I interpret it. Right? And in chiropractic, and you know, they have their own origins. We're not always there, but there is I would say, a huge theme of like Christian beginnings. So that's intertwined in the chiropractic philosophy. But with what we understand as far as Islam, it's a continuation of that same divine message. You know, so that's how I correlate it, right? So my interpretation is, it is the most congruent with God consciousness and spirituality, because we take the science and the art and the philosophy and we merge it. And the reason like the medical system and science doesn't work so much for me is because science, you cannot quantify God. At our level of consciousness, we can't fathom it. So you can't deduce it. It's not marginalized. And for me, I think health is more holistic. It's more expansive. You're growing into it. You're not breaking down, okay, these are cells, these are organs. Yes, it's important to have the foundational science piece, but if you don't understand how to make it, how it all works together, and the fact that some things we'll just never know. We're just here for a temporary life. So, you know, we have to leave room for that. For me as a practitioner, I'm very objective and rational in how I present with people. Now, let's say I have all parts of myself, and to truly be in service, it's all about meeting people where they're at. Now, let's say if I was doing a consultation with you where I already get a basis of your understanding and your inclination towards spirituality, I may have a different rhetoric of where I'm meeting you to relate and to connect with you, so you feel more seen and heard. Now, let's say I meet with a medical doctor who does not, or an atheistic medical doctor who does not believe in any higher power. Okay, I'm breaking down anatomy, physiology, and in terms that relate to him. So for me, I may have my own personal opinions, but as a professional, I'm in service. So it's not about me or my opinions and belief. It's about how can I show up in a way that's going to help this individual become healthier, stronger, and more integrated in their life.
Yes, and I also feel like, it would help other, the client, for example, that if also they have the belief in the power of healing in their body, that would definitely escalate the healing. So I'm just kind of putting the point that if you have that mindset or the belief that, my body's working for me, and there is a higher healing, I'm pretty sure that this would also help with any blockages or interferences. I was also curious to know more when does someone really consider going to chiropractic? Because normally, like I said, you think about it when you have pain, back pain, or to me that's associated. But it came out to be so much more, that it could help with mental blocks or emotional blocks. When should you consider going? What would be the first steps? Because I've heard also that people go or start when they're, very young, and sometimes I hear you don't go to the chiropractic until you're until you have major pain. So I would love to hear more about your opinion from that perspective.
I'll share my personal approach, and then I'll share a professional insight. Personally, with now how I understand chiropractic, I want to be under care for the rest of my life, and my family, my loved ones, I will always recommend for them to do the same. You literally want someone who is knowledgeable and capable to have your back and to give you objective and feedback that you need, right? We're interdependent beings. So yes, I definitely advocate for autonomy being self-aware, being very empowered in your own healing capacities. But when we look even at philosophical or even religious perspective, we come from somewhere, we're going somewhere, and we're meant to support one another. So like people will say like, oh, they can adjust themselves or whatever, but sometimes you need that back and forth. Just to answer that component, I think everyone should be at least checked. People, some of the misconceptions is, oh, I went to a chiropractor and he said I got to go three times a week for the rest of my life. You got to find a professional who really meets you where you're at and has more of a holistic approach and philosophy. We got to remember that in our society nowadays, not everyone is operating at that soul level to where they're genuinely wanting to serve someone. A lot of people are in scarcity and they're not in that abundant state, so they're also trying to manage a business. And that's the patient's job of discerning, and that's part of my intention is to be that practitioner, but also create dialogue and create a team of professionals around the world where we genuinely show up to serve, and we've done the work in ourselves, and we can authentically give honest feedback where it's not about our income or profits, it's about what's best for the patients.
Yes, I definitely agree. Everybody has that sense of integrity of just, I'm here to serve. There is a bigger purpose of why I'm here. It's not just about reaching an outcome or reaching a paycheck, or it's really about how can I make a difference in this individual's life. So I really like about this on if everybody were to serve from that mindset and know that, let's say the focus is a byproduct of what you're doing. It's not about reaching a materialistic state.
Yeah.
It's just it's a byproduct of your serving. You don't even have to worry about it naturally. But right now our focus is switched where this is the final road we want to get to here, and may not be in tune with the journey of what we're doing because we're just so result oriented these days.
Yeah.
But again, if I'm still considering chiropractic, I don't know much about it. I know you mentioned that everybody should do it, but what would be the benefits of doing it from an early stage? What would be a benefit if I'm just completely fine, I'm not feeling any pain, I feel like I'm in perfect shape? What would that do for me still? Will it just, from an energetic or maybe spiritual, what would it do for me if I'm not feeling pain? Why would I need to go?
Well, I'll take you through like a little bit of the process. Let's say, how it looks even. Let's say, okay, we can just use the example, right? We can just like role play. Like, okay, you feel fine. Like, why do you need to go see a chiropractor? Now, it does come back to mindset too. Like, are you here to feel fine, or do you want to feel your best? And that's where a huge discernment and misconception is people think that you go to a chiropractor to get out of pain. No, you go to a chiropractor to get your body functioning at its absolute like peak capacity. And it's not just chiropractic that does that. There's more to it. So when you have that mindset, we don't know what we don't know. So if you haven't experienced optimal health, which I would say most people haven't, and none of us are like angelic beings here walking on water to where, fine is very subjective. So, and to people who want to feel that way, that's fine. Like, that's their prerogative. But let's bring it back. Okay, so you feel fine, everything. Okay, so what the premise of chiropractic is doing is helping to optimize and regulate your nervous system. So if we have harmony in the nervous system, let's say that you sit all day in a certain way, you're hunched over, and your back bothers you when you sit all day, or maybe you don't even have pain. You like if you come and see me, I'm gonna just build a connection. I'm gonna go through your health history, maybe some challenges you've had, or let's say you're fine, you're a wellness candidate. Okay, so what are your goals? Can you run, jump, lift? Can you express yourself? Can you dance? Can you do whatever you're doing at a professional elite level? Because even if you're an Olympic level athlete, there's still room for growth. So if anyone thinks that they can't be helped, that's more of a mental block, I would say. So that's where I would take it. And I would get a health history, get a full understanding of where you are. And I would utilize beyond just chiropractic, right? Is like hydration, nutrition, movement, rest. Yes, your nervous system regulation. How is your mindset? And that is the art of being a holistic doctor, which I do think the chiropractic philosophy is definitely an advocate of. And then with a chiropractic adjustment, now we are supporting your neuromusculoskeletal system, which means how the brain communicates to your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, and the rest of your physical being. Your ability... No, yeah.
Your connection with the nervous system, regulation, it's so much deeper than this. So how would you know, also, if I want to be more in tune with my body, and let's say I'm going to a chiropractic and I'm trying to do my best, how would I know, if I'm doing like a monthly checkups, but how would I know if I'm out of alignment, or, what would be the signs if someone is really out of alignment and would need some, help from a chiropractic perspective?
Yeah, so there's many objective and subjective measurements. So like, let's say if you come in, we could do, I'm a little bit more conservative on the imaging. We could do imaging like x-rays if we need to, or MRI, or whatever would be like, recommended or most appropriate for that individual. We can do like a posture screening. I'm gonna check core function. I'm gonna check the way you walk, your gait. I'll probably look at, do a functional movement screening as well. And I'll tell you to this day, I probably assess, I don't know, maybe like at least 1,000 people. And I have never met anyone who is completely like fine, who does not have something that they could improve on. We're not perfect beings. So, and to answer your question about being out of alignment, that's also our role. So we'll educate you, and that's a case-by-case scenario. But if right now we're looking at screens. We are under artificial lighting. Our earth, our food, our entire environment is not optimal. So the three main elements of subluxation, which is the chiropractic term for misalignment, it's a little bit deeper than just a misalignment, is thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And to break that down, thoughts are like, let's say that you just lost a loved one, or you went through a very intense breakup. If you have that spiritual and energetic understanding, like your mind can get you out of alignment. So like that's just a simple example for thoughts. Traumas, you were in a car accident, or you tore your ACL playing a sport, or you fell and hit your head. Those are traumas. That is going to throw you out of alignment. And then toxins. Let's say that your foods are not organic, clean, in harmony with nature. That is what?
Radiation. That's like in your
Radiation. Yes, exactly. And that's like, yeah, and that's more from the chiropractic like lingo and wording. But all of us are exposed to that. So you would just want to be under someone's care in whatever frequency makes sense for you, right? I would, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because normally when you talk about trauma and you talk about emotion, the first thing that you would think of is going to a trauma therapist, or going to a psychiatrist, or going to, your I don't know, a coach. You normally don't correlate trauma and these intense emotions with also chiropractic. So I think, again, this is one of the myths when people focus on one thing that chiropractic does, which is just get adjusted. It's really solving or kind of releasing these emotions from a physical perspective, correct?
It's multi-dimensional. May I ask you a question? Who is the doctor or the specialist of the nerve system?
You're right. There is no.
Chiropractors. We are. Not in the medical paradigm, there aren't, but that's what I'm saying. We just haven't been So like, we're working, and that's part of my intention too, is to get us on an equal playing field when every practitioner has a gift and something to share. But we need an even playing field where we all understand what our role is and we fit together, right? It's like a team. If you have bullies on a team or you have ball hogs, like in a basketball, like the team isn't going to function as best. But I would say, like chiropractors, that's a better way for people to understand is we are doctors of the nerve system. So yes, adjustment is one of our primary tools, but we study in depth, and we're all about removing interference from the brain and how it communicates to the rest of the body. There's no one who does what we do at that level.
And when you say interference from the brain, because again, normally someone could just say, brain neurologist, right? Like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not going to think about, a chiropractic that when you say removing an interference. Again, can you describe this term interference and what does it mean with removing an interference from the brain to regulate your nervous system?
Yeah, so we talked about like the thoughts, trauma, toxins. That's where we derive the term. That causes subluxation. But okay, I will give a very simple example. I can't say, like, okay, let's just say I work all day and I'm twisted and I'm looking at a screen here. Okay? So perhaps I don't have my handy spine model on me, but let's say perhaps by sitting a certain way all day on a very physical, like let's remove energy and spiritual nature, just on a biomechanical level, my spine is getting a little bit distorted. I'm not breathing properly, so I don't have like core function. I'm sitting, so there's a lot of stressors that are happening on the body. And now when I go to live the rest of my day, like there's a little bit of a curve, there's a kink in the spine, like this is how a vertebrae looks, like it's a little bit rotated. Now, if we understand brains communicate to the body, the nerves come down, trickle through the spine, and now each level innervates a different physiological system. So let's say it's like in your mid-thoracics and it's innervating one of your organ systems. If it is a little bit misaligned, that could disrupt the communication of the nerves. So that's a very elementary, like biomechanical level, right? Let's just, if your Wi-Fi router and the wiring is a little bit off, it can disrupt the connection. So it's like a highway. The brain communicates to the body. If we have a traffic, you could, like if the spine is rotated, it could be a traffic jam. The signal is just not as clear, it's not as efficient. So we provide an adjustment, we bring the body back into proper alignment, so now the brain, the communication is more fluid.
The communication.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a clear signal going back and forth.
Yep.
That's amazing. I love you brought the visibility of looking at chiropractic as the nervous system doctor.
Yeah.
That's really something, that's a takeaway from me because I didn't look at it that way, and I hope other people, would benefit also from this perspective of, if you want to regulate your nervous system, consider a chiropractic. It's not just that there are, this is also a different medicine that needs to be that needs to, get more attention because, we're following maybe the modern way of medicine, going to, to get her maybe physical therapist. And that's something that I also get confused about, when I have the option between physical therapy, because in my mind, physical therapy could overlap chiropractic.
Mm-hmm. They're very complementary. And to be fair, I want to be like very neutral. Chiropractic is a member on your healthcare team. Because like I also am not like someone is like, oh, you only see a chiropractor and you have no one else, right? It's just, so for me and how I'm going to present how I practice is I'm a holistic doctor and practitioner. Chiropractic is one of the ways and the tools, the philosophy that I use, but I also don't want to be limited in that scope because if I see someone, I can be, okay, yes, you need chiropractic care and you need maybe a therapist to work through some of the emotional stuff. And then, so everyone has a unique recipe of what they need in that moment or that season of their life. We don't want to be too rigid. We want to show up and be present and see what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't mean okay, if you do practice, don't do physical therapy, or if you do physical therapy, don't
Yes.
do chiropractic.
Yeah.
It's all stuff. can do two things at the same time. Everybody would have a different pace, I would say. So overall, just knowing this connection and the power of the body to heal and that connection, how did it really, affect your approach or your faith? How did it deepen your faith with God? And how did it also increase other people's impact? Looking at it from a spiritual way is what I'm trying to say.
All right, wait. To clarify, what is the exact question? It's how did chiropractic increase my faith?
In your thoughts, just knowing the power of healing, because you're witnessing it every day. You're seeing how the mind and the nervous system are all connected. You're seeing how whatever you're doing is making a difference and making an impact. And I'm sure you're relating it to higher power and how
Yeah.
God gave you these techniques
Yeah.
to heal people. So how did it impact your faith or deepen your connection with God?
I like that question. I think that there's many ways that I could go about answering it, but what's coming to my mind instinctively is it's such an honor and such a gift to be able to serve people in that way. And like, let's say if there's already misconceptions and propaganda against chiropractic, it makes me want to be even that much better at what I do to help people understand. So it's very important for me to tie it into how it's made my faith stronger. Is it's a gift and a privilege to be able to work in this way with people's bodies and their spirits and their minds. So it makes me want to be even a cleaner, more purified vessel, to where my energy is always at its best, and I'm constantly seeking betterment because my energy has the capability to positively impact those around me. And from a spiritual lens, it's about being present moment to moment and doing the best amongst ourselves so that we can support those around us. And I would just say that that's one way. It's such a privilege that people come to me with whatever is going on in their life. I don't take that lightly. And that's why I work very hard, because I definitely know that there's a lot of people in the field of chiropractic and many other fields that are living a life that's not incongruent with their vocation. So I think that
They're out of alignment with their purpose and they just found their way to chiropractic?
as a career or another endeavor to make money, right? It's not their purpose. They're not as dialed in, and that's okay too, right? I don't want to throw shade anywhere. It's just, for me, I know that it's been, a journey to get here, and for me, my personal life, my professional life, my purpose, and my mission, I've been very strategic about having harmony and congruence in that. So for me, it means so much more than just like a career or a chiropractic adjustment. For me, this is like the way for me to support those placed in my life.
Yeah, well, that brings me into how did you know that you wanted to be a chiropractic? It really brings me to know what is the purpose. This is a career for me. This is God's purpose for me, and I'm all in. Did you know that since you were
No.
Because I was so envious of those people when I was younger that knew what they were going to do. When I was in high school,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to be a doctor. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know I don't even know. And I was so clueless. And even when I went into business school, I wasn't even sure. Should I do finance? Should I do accounting? I was never sure. It kind of things unfolded slowly for me. So that's why I want to know more about your story. How did you know that this was the path for you?
I was laughing in my head because I was like, okay, that question is almost part of my whole life story leading to now. So I will be as efficient as possible with how I came here, because I can totally relate to what you're saying. No, and I did not know. Growing up, my dad's a cardiologist, so I grew up in more of a medical paradigm. We're still religious and spiritual, but when it comes to health, we go to the medical doctor, and then there's that paradigm. So I didn't grow up, I never saw a chiropractor. It was not in my wheelhouse. I grew up in Dunwoody, Georgia. Life University, one of the world's leading educators for future doctor of chiropractic, is here in Atlanta. I never even knew that. So it was never in my field of awareness. I went to University of Georgia. fitness and athletics, and I had my own chronic pain story and my injury, but I'll save that for another time. That led me down seeking more holistic health and healing. I had a surgery when I was 20 years old that, knowing what I know now, I needed a chiropractor and I needed more of a holistic approach. So I have a personal pain story of, like, you know, I'm not just like some chiropractic family that just like we're just drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, it's been a journey and an evolution. So
Yeah, so it was the injuries that you have gone through that led you to the path?
yeah, well, I'd say it led me to the holistic path. So I realized even dentistry, when I learned actually about nutrition and understanding how the world works and understanding how we are a holistic being in a system of systems, I didn't want to work with just one area or treat symptoms, because most of what we even deal with in our oral cavity is coming from our gut. So when my mind started to expand and I really started to learn the truth of science and how we got here, and like even the biological principles, my inquisitive nature just kept going. So I actually saw some chiropractors, I'll be honest, and I worked at a chiropractic office. I was not that impressed. I did see it kind of as like a mechanistic way, to where it was just like, oh yeah, like they're just providing adjustments. Like, I can get the same results through movement, lifestyle, nutrition. So I didn't fully understand and appreciate it. So I understand. I was not always the biggest advocate of chiropractic. To skip through some even important parts, my career, everything was going well in Miami. The whole COVID era threw me for a curveball, and it was a station in my life to pivot. And I decided to move back to Atlanta, and I looked back into all the programs, osteopathic, chiropractic, or actually everything but chiropractic. It wasn't really in my wheelhouse. And then it was divinely orchestrated. I can't really say that it was like a objective rational. Like, it came into my awareness. I called a few chiropractors I knew. It was like all yeses from God or the universe, or however you want to say. I toured the school. I had all the prereqs. Once I toured the school, I met like and it was just all green lights. It was like the path was paved for me. And yeah, and then when I learned the philosophy of chiropractic, I was like, okay, duh. This is the least limiting of any practice, because I didn't want to go into another profession that would limit my ability to serve someone and integrate the spiritual philosophy. And that was, I think, there was not a limitation on those elements. And it didn't go against my core beliefs and values. It actually integrated with them. And when that happened, and then I realized I can use my hands, I can use my mind, it's an evolution of everything I've done, I was like, yes. And I didn't think too much into it. I trusted my gut. It was my gut, my heart, my soul. Everything said yes, and here I am.
You keep mentioning limit. Like, okay, nothing is limiting me, or, you know, there is no limit. So
Yeah.
are we saying that there are limits in other medical systems, like limits on by the book, that this is, you know, it's all scientific? Is that what you're saying? 'Cause can you elaborate more when you say limits?
Yeah, so freedom is one of my, like,
Science?
not just necessarily. Freedom is one of my core values. And when I mean limitations, it's like self-made or man-made limitations. And yes, like, so let's say if you, and in like the medical paradigm, when things are so matter of fact, it's like, no, can you really like prove that? I know science and data, but there's so much beyond that, right? It's like, can we quantify in science the human experience? No. So like the premise of how we're even here, like my conscious awareness and ability to even be present and alive to speak to you, how are you going to do a research study on that? So when that's like the core belief, yes, so a lot of paradigms, they were limiting, and some things just went against what I believe to be true and what I've experienced, right? And I don't really resonate with philosophies that there's almost like an inherent arrogance in it, to where it's like, this is matter of fact. Actually, no, nothing is really matter of fact. It's a constant unfolding.
This is it. This is my
Yeah.
This is what research said. What
Yeah.
we should go by. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You want to, and it's also take that spiritual perspective, like you
Yeah.
mentioned. Like, can you do research on that human experience? How can you, you know, be like your emotions, your feelings, and it's hard to trace. It's hard to put your hands on it, right? It's not tangible where you can say this is what caused an illness, for example, because I've heard of people who were having the perfect lifestyle, eating healthy, and they still got some kind of disease, and they're surprised. They don't know where they went wrong. They were eating the right things. They were doing the exercise that they need to. But again, it goes back to you as a spiritual being, that you are full of emotions. You know, you have trauma stored in your that could eventually, if or released, which I would say is linked to your nervous system. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, since I'm not scientific.
No, the nervous system regulates everything. The nervous system integrates and helps to regulate everything. Everything functions together. So, yeah.
So this is where I would say, you know, it's just addressing this whole emotions and how it impacts the nervous system. And, you know, and I know that there are questions that I will address later that we got from people. And
Yeah.
again, feel free, anybody, if you have questions, to drop it here.
Yeah. I have a point. Just to close off what you're saying, I just want to share something. So let's say for each one of us, if we can just drop in, and it doesn't have to be in a specific way. If we've ever experienced like heartbreak or heartache, you can breathe, you can hydrate the right way, you can nourish the right way, you can move, you can do everything the right way. That does not change the emotional state that you're in. So that's just an example, because and the emotional system and the limbic system, yeah, it relates with the nervous system. So everything's interrelated. But that's an example that, like, sometimes when we think we're doing the wrong things, our psyche has such an encompassing impact on all of our physiological systems. You can't just compartmentalize.
Yeah, so can you again for me? So let's say if movement, if I'm referring to movement as changing my emotional state, will that happen?
It'll help. Everything's in constant flux. So that's about being self-aware and then being open and always, you know, being in the moment and the experience. So for me personally, and then also professionally, it's like, okay, like we have all this information, but if we tune in and drop in right now, what is the optimal choice and medicine for myself or that individual here and now? And that is something that, why I say limitations, is because by the book, it could be X, Y, and Z. But let's say if someone is heartbroken or there's other things happening, no, maybe they just need a hug and like a walk and to feel better. You know, maybe they don't even need an adjustment right now. That is on a practitioner and someone who's dialed in themselves and has that emotional intelligence as well as, you know, energetic presence, can discern and help discern and show up in that way.
Yes. So going back to like the spiritual impact, have you seen very obvious like breakthroughs through your clients? Let's say from a spiritual perspective, someone that after getting adjustments, let's say they could have gotten more clarity or could have gotten, you know, their mood have shifted. Tell me more about examples that you've experiencing, you know, just witnessing, you know, any client who has received that sense of relief, not just from the physical aspect, but also from the emotional, spiritual.
Yeah, I would tie this even to my coaching and my health practitioner, because for me it's all a journey and it's all congruent. But I've seen so many people shift in, you know, the way that they speak, right? Let's say someone's having a terrible day and then they come in and their body is tight, right? And so this is what we see all the time. Their body's tight, they're stressed out, their emotional state is low. They get adjusted, boom, there is a huge transition in the energy. So now they feel a little bit more relieved. There's less pain in the body. now, and like for me, I'm showing up, I'm listening, I'm trying not to say too much, but I want to encourage them. So maybe they get to move some energy. So there's like talk therapy included. So they're moving the energy. So now their physical being is different. Their neurology has been upgraded. Hopefully their emotional system also has a boost through that love and connection with, you know, another human. And now everything is going in a different direction now. So without getting into too much details about like personal examples, I mean, I've witnessed, and not just like from one adjustment. Yes, I get the feedback and testimonials all day, every day of like, oh, I feel better. My neck doesn't hurt anymore. My back doesn't hurt anymore. Like that's very like common for all chiropractors. But then I literally witness people's behavior changes, their energy changes, their presence changes, and that usually takes time. But I've witnessed it so much in the people in my life.
So how do you notice? Okay, behavior you could notice or observe behavior changes, but how could you notice the energetic pattern changes?
In so many different ways. So we take objective measurements. So like certain things like posture, range of motion. You could even do like strength, mobility, flexibility. Like those are all objective. Subjective, big is in how they speak. So every time like we see someone, we're taking notes and we're doing documentation. It's like, hey, how are you doing today? Like what's going on? Is there anything you want to update with me? Like how can I support you? I've witnessed like... So yeah, if someone's being like negative Nancy, complaining more, and then over the course of life you just witness, and like by, you know, hopefully my influence plus just that space, they're just starting to speak more gently and compassionately about themselves, for themselves. So that's an abstract example, but I've definitely seen that because when you're providing love, care, support, and healing, it's a positive influence. And if you're going with that intention and you upgrade, if someone's more in alignment, they're going to feel better, which means that everything in their life starts to shift. Feel better. Yeah.
They're passionate because they feel good about themselves. They don't have that pain weighing them down, preventing them from being their best version. So I like that approach. I just didn't realize that chiropractic were taking notes of how the tones are changing.
Well, I would say so I will say, to be fair, some of these things are going to be like my perspective. Yeah. But I want to give chiropractic a lot of credit because if the professionals are practicing in the way that we're taught and in the way the philosophy is, like, it's a game changer in your healthcare team. Like I would, with what I know now, 1,000%, I would say I would have a chiropractor being my primary care practitioner, like my portal, huh?
Your chiropractic would be your primary care practitioner?
Yeah, and we are primary care. We're actually portal of entry. We don't need a medical referral or anything. And we the way that we're taught, we're supposed to diagnose and to be able to refer and to be able to understand red flags or any medical issues. Yeah, so we are a portal of entry. We are primary care. So I want a great chiropractor to be my primary care. So if something goes wrong, I see them first before I go to the medical doctor, before I go somewhere else. Unless, obviously, it's like an acute or traumatic or something that is a medical referral. But for sure, I would, and you develop much more relationship.
That's a really good piece of information because, again, this is another thing that no one has ever thought about with chiropractic as a chiropractic being your primary care provider.
So can I
kind of like stopped.
Yeah. Well, can I just add a little bit to that? Because I think in the other interview I was asked about like physical therapy versus chiropractic. I think there's like some level of like competition. I don't feel that way at all. Physiotherapists and physical therapists are great. I also want to have my go-to, right, for myself and then also someone else because they dive a little bit deeper, more so. Another good way to look at it is like physical therapy, muscles, and even like strength and conditioning. Chiropractic, like the spine, brain, nerves, different things. But that's a huge difference is I studied, we have 4-part board exams, and I even had a physiotherapy exam. We have to do orthopedic diagnosis, neurological diagnosis, visceral diagnosis. We take vitals. We are trained to be a primary care practitioner. So if you come in our doors, like that is a part of our training. That's a part of our board exam. That's part of our licensing procedures. Because if you come and see us without a referral and we miss a red flag and you have like a tumor or something's going on and we are negligent or we don't do it, we're responsible for that. So we have a much greater level of responsibility. And most people are not aware. Like my dad, the first time he went and saw a chiropractor, they took his blood pressure and he was like, I didn't know y'all do this. So yeah, yeah. Not everyone does it and not everyone practices in that way, but it's in our training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys are qualified. So this is a very good point. Again, this is a month. Okay. So going back now that this is the month of Ramadan, it's the month of reflection. So if you are reflecting on your health journey, it is a good opportunity to see how chiropractic can fit in. Because again, Ramadan is really about just challenging your belief system and seeing where it really fits in for you right now and dropping all of the misconceptions or even false beliefs that you've had. So let's say for me, chiropractic, to be honest, was never in my radar until I met Hamad. And now it is a time for reflection on what can I change in my routine? What can I change to be my optimal best self? Because this is my goal for this Ramadan is to have, is to be the best version of myself physically, emotionally. So thank you so much for bringing that perspective of chiropractic where, people now, at least who are not feeling, who may have not known where to go, now they have another option. Because I know a lot of people who have been seeing different doctors and they're still not getting results and they're still in pain. So if you haven't considered chiropractic, maybe that would be something that you could look into, by any beliefs that you have. It's a good time to reflect. So Hamad, if someone wants to reach out to you, are you only based in Atlanta or can you do virtual? How does it work with you? Or can you tell us more about your practice and how to connect?
Yeah, so I'm based in Atlanta physically. I'm working. I mean, my own dream is to be someone who is more mobile, not only in the Atlanta area, but even inshallah globally. But yeah, for now, I mean, this is a good platform. If someone just sends me a message, if you just get a hold of me and ask me a question, that's why I'm doing all this. I want to be someone, I derive so much purpose and fulfillment from serving and helping, if I can help someone with something that I wish I would have known, it brings my soul so much, peace and that sukoon. So I would say they can message me through here. I could get on a call or even do virtual. I do teach a class that's also virtual. Basically with a greater need, and when people take action, I really do my best to show up. And even if it's a brief conversation, I think a 10-15 minute call with me can really just help gain more perspective, because I've really never come across a single human that I couldn't do or say something to support them or help them along their journey. So you just gotta reach out, connect, and then even through more questions and what I get, we can also us doing this, right? We can start to cater and I can create content, I can do more. But I think it's very important for people to take that step too, because as people who lead and provide service and give, we can only do so much, and the people who are receiving the care, they also need to be advocates for themselves. So they reach out, because if I'm pursuing people, that means they really don't want it. So I just ask that people ask questions, seek knowledge, and reach out. It doesn't have to be me. I'm more than willing to help. And then but it's just good to gain knowledge. So just ask questions.
You were very insightful. You gave me a lot of information that I'm still digesting and looking at things from a different perspective. Like I said, I didn't consider chiropractic before. So yes, Coach Shirazi is just a click away. So if you want to connect with him, I'll also put in his information when I save this live. But I also have questions. So if you want to go, I want to ask you a few questions from the audience. We got is, what type of spiritual practices possible help aid and manage pain? For
this question, I think it's great because it's insightful. leans more into the philosophical side. Let's say that, and I've had chronic pain before, but let's say we have, a very misfortunate diagnosis, or we're just dealing with intense pain, whether it's from a physical trauma or just chronic overuse. Let's just use, for example, low back pain and neck pain. Everyone probably experiences this to some account. Okay, spiritual aid, depending on your religion or theology, prayer, tapping into that spiritual nature of healing and energetic, but I would even utilize your mindset and your belief, right? Is letting go of it and shifting the way you look at it. Because that same back pain, let's say two people have the exact same back pain. There's one person who's fixated on it and they're just all day, every day, just like focused on the back pain and just like it's crippling to them. Then you have this other person, they're praying, they're being grateful. They are really just okay, what is this pain teaching me? They are taking accountability for what they contributed to the pain. So now this pain has become this person's gift. And this pain has become this person's demise. So the way that we look at something can shift everything.
Shifting how you're looking at things, basically.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of different things as well, like being around nature and just looking at the details, being in the present moment, seeing, just kind of immersing yourself in the color, like looking at the colors, counting, seeing the abundance of leaves on, the abundance of grass, like just looking at things in an abundant mindset while you're walking at least help me. And I would say, and there's a lot of apps that could have meditation. I know, like Mind Valley, there's Calm. So there's different tools. There's no one size fits all. I believe that you just have to, kind of try different methods and see what works for you. Also, fueling, just doing the things that you enjoy and you're passionate about is also something that fuels the soul. Just be more mindful of what do you like, and do I make time for the things that I enjoy? Because a lot of times we get just caught up in life and work and just repeating the same day. Work, go back, after work I just do chores, maybe go to sleep. So it's just also, how do I cultivate joy in my life? It's also something that you need to think about and see and design it. Designing your own human experience. Another one is, what is the meaning of life?
I know this one. There's so many ways to look at it. I'm going to work on just being instinctive. To be here now. I'll utilize, there's a ethos of Life University here. It's to give, to do, to love, to serve out of your own state of abundance. And to add that, it's just to be here, to really be in the experience of what it means to be human, to make the most of it, to have fun, to enjoy it, and also to derive meaning and fulfillment. And to go a little bit deep is from a soul and a oneness conscious perspective is we're all connected and we're all one. So do we want to support and love and lift each other up? I think that that's the meaning of life, because we're working towards that, that Jannah, that heavenly state of the optimal experience and expression.
Yes, and just know that you're supported and how, God has given us his attributes to use. God has given us the power of creation. God has given us the power to heal. Let's say if you're in the, but on a lower scale, obviously, if you're a doctor or chiropractic, you are healing people. So just know that we have those attributes to co-create and do things that we would have never thought we could do. And then right now, AI and the algorithms, we are getting into that level of intelligence of knowing, how do the algorithms, how do our brain process data, but we can see now from an AI perspective of how it also does it when you're programming things. But overall, another question is, can chiropractic heal osteoporosis?
This question is, I've had other questions too about like curing and healing. That's not really the premise of chiropractic. So I want to like, you know, pump the brakes there, and that's where sometimes people get in trouble, and then the medical system is like, oh no, like you can't cure and treat diseases. So I would say it can support, it can help. Osteoporosis is a condition. Chiropractic care, along with your lifestyle, your nutrition, and all of that, can definitely facilitate better outcomes. And at the end of the day, my perspective is God is what heals, and like we heal from within. So even when you said like I don't necessarily, like you can say we don't heal people, we facilitate people to heal themselves.
I love, yes, it's a beautiful approach to look at. All right, so to wrap this up, I know you've mentioned that you will be orchestrating or coordinating Eid, a wellness festival, and that's something that we celebrate after Ramadan is over.
Yeah.
This is a celebration, but what are you really doing, and when is it? How can you invite people to come and know more about it?
Thanks for asking about this. It's in the works. So we're coordinating like time, date, location, and where it is. Right now, we're looking at like Sunday, April 13th in the afternoon. The idea here is for Eid Wellness Festival is to do something different that's inclusive to all communities. We want to do, you know, have like chiropractic, health, wellness activities, maybe some basketball, some vendors, some food. And it's introducing people, you know, all Muslims, but also non-Muslims. I want to allow other people, everyone, an opportunity to see a little bit more about what Ramadan is about, what Eid is about. So that's in the works, and that's a huge vision of mine, is more to be inclusive to humanity. Like we can all have our own personal, spiritual, religious beliefs, but by seeking knowledge and understanding other people, it brings us closer together. And that's one of my life's missions and something that I'm very passionate about. So inshallah, like within the next few days, we just got to finalize some details. And I want to keep it simple because we're all busy, and even some of the leaders of this is like not too much stress. I'm just trying to take action that has positive intention behind it, and let's see where it goes. But Sunday, April 13th is just, it's about cultivating that space, right? The intention is community, and we can utilize the celebration of the end of Ramadan for everyone.
And I will definitely share the details once you have everything set up. I can also definitely share here on my page for anyone who's interested to attend, including me. So,
Yeah.
so to wrap this up, I want to end it with a piece of breath work, because I know, you know, you've mentioned on your philosophy, based on our conversations, that, you know, the solution is for a lot of things just breath, you know.
Yeah,
mindful,
just breathing.
You know, breath work. Can you just illustrate before we leave just how to breathe before, you know, and just move on with our day?
Yeah, I would say that, okay, let's see what we got here. When I utilize breathing, there's also like a component of meeting people where they're at. So for the sake of a moment like this, we can all just take a moment to just drop in, and we can take maybe one hand on our belly, then one hand over our chest or our hearts, and we're not looking to change anything. We're just gonna breathe. We're just gonna tune into our breath for maybe like 2 to 3 breaths. And even just this presence should already help to soften and regulate our nervous system. And now we'll take 2 hands and we're going to place it over the belly and the rib cage. And let's just be a little bit more intentional. So when we inhale, we expand the belly and the rib cage. And then when you exhale, the belly naturally draws inward. And let's just take a moment, maybe take a few deep breaths at your own pace, just like that. And now we'll activate the breath for the rest of our day. So we're going to inhale, we're going to expand the belly and the rib cage. And when we exhale, we're going to draw the navel in, the belly button in towards our spine, and simultaneously lift the pelvic floor. So we're creating this pumping mechanism. And that's more of like an activated core breathing technique. So let's just try a few like that. Hopefully it makes sense to everyone. We'll just take a few deep breaths, and then we're going to go have a great rest of our day. So inhale, expansion. Exhale, belly draws in, lift the pelvic floor. And one more. And, just like shake it out. More than anything, without getting into the solutions of breathing, it's just to breathe. Because like even if I say, I don't even like to say the correct way, because look, like when we're in tune with ourselves, we'll breathe how like we're intended to breathe.
Yeah, this is the perfect ending for the day. I feel like I can carry on, especially since I'm fasting.
Yeah.
I have so much more energy. That made a bit different. So everybody breathe, and it was a pleasure having you here, Hamad, and I'm sure we'll connect more and collaborate. So thank you for joining, and see you guys soon.
Thank you so much.